Hi, everybody. This is Tim at Alliance Solutions Group. Thank you for taking the time every day to join us. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on over to Pat Warren here with us at Alliance Solutions Group. Go ahead and take it away, Pat.
Thank you, Tim. Hi, guys. This is Pat Warren with Alliance Solutions Group. We're your Sage business partner, as you know, and we have a tight relationship and a tight promotion effort going on all the time on our human resources side. So today we're going to talk to you about Sage HRMS, the human resources solution offered up by Sage. We have Michael Rice on the line with us. He'll be doing a quick overview of the solution, trying to touch on a variety of the overall features of the product and how it can address your employee management needs. Before we get there, I just wanted to give you a quick introduction. You know us primarily here at Alliance as your technology consultants next door. As you know, we're typically local in our markets, and we focus solely on the construction industry and construction software products, along with human resources support for those industries. We focus primarily in the areas that you see. We're in your markets locally, typically with sales and consulting support, and we focus on all the construction products that Sage has to offer, really from estimating to field solutions, mobile technology, and today we'll touch on human resources software. What we want to try to do today is show how the Sage HRMS solution can do a few things. Number one, can help you improve workflows as it relates to your employee management processes. Will help you in managing those workflows better, make decisions quicker and better and more effectively as it relates to your employee solutions. Will help to mitigate your risk in a variety of compliance-related areas and also give you an overall better management of your employee workforce. With that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Michael, or Tim, if you would go ahead and turn it over to Mike. Mike's going to give you a great overview. If you have questions, feel free to hold them, I guess, or maybe you can ask them through the process. We'll address those as we can through the demonstration, and Mike will be available for questions at the end of the demonstration as well.
Okay, thank you so much, Pat. So, my name is Bryce. My role at Sage as a field sales engineer is really to provide demonstration assistance to show our Sage HRMS technology. And I also work with Pat and the Alliance team to really dig deep, discover, do discovery processes with clients like yourselves to really uncover different items that you may be looking to address, so that we can essentially establish goals and help you meet any of those challenges that you're currently facing. So today what we'll be talking about is a solution called HRMS. So we're going to talk a little bit about a term ROEI. You've heard the term ROEI before. We're going to get into the solution just from an introductory standpoint to talk about some big picture items, reporting, personalization, and expandability, so the ability for us to help you grow. And then we'll also leave plenty of time so that we question and answers at the end. What I would encourage you to do, since we have all of the lines muted, is feel free to shoot questions through that chat. You can actually shoot that to organizers and panelists only as the option. And what that's going to do is allow us be able to answer those questions throughout versus you waiting until the end and possibly forgetting to ask that question. So really, as we talk about Sage HRMS, that term return on employee investment, really what we have to ask ourselves is what really makes an organization. So, we have these services, we can help, compare ourselves to our competition. We've got fantastic products, but really that helps us thrive. And really the answer to that is our employees, the people that actually work here, about that organization and really what makes that, what makes you uniquely different. It starts at the people. So if you really think of your people, your employees as an investment, that's where we really get that term return on an employee investment. So we want to treat our employees really as an investment that's going to give us value over time. So each and every way we can actually contribute to our employees, whether they're the end users, in your case, the construction workers, the site foremen, the site supervisors, or even if we're investing into our HR staff to be able to reduce some of their manual workloads, that's going to help us essentially increase our bottom line. And some of the ways that we can do that are really by addressing some of these concerns, not having the proper reporting functionality, having a system maybe that has been pieced together, so we've got security issues. Data is manually stored, so we have some inaccuracies because of human error. And really, at the end of it all, there's not a single system that both the employee or the manager can access to get data timely and readily available at their fingertips. So I wanted to highlight some of the common challenges that I've run into, working with Alliance for a couple of years now, and what we've been able to see in some of our customers that actually use HRMS. Obviously, this list is probably pages upon pages long, but some of the big ones, you have workforces working long hours. You're trying to claim or claim travel expenses or work-related expenses. You're trying to track hours for different job assignments. There's a ton of time due to the high turnover for onboarding new employees and all of that paperwork, and also bringing them through those termination steps. Personnel changes happen quite frequently. So, we're having to track different skills, training, certifications. So these are some of the big ones that, we run into every day. And of course, when we spend the time to sit down with you and talk to you about your upcoming project, this is where we're going to be able to actually uncover those challenges or pains that we call them, that are unique to your specific organization. And I always like to map it out. So today, you hear about customers that might have Excel as their HR system. They might be using Access to track leave. They've got a payroll system through maybe ADP. They've got a time and attendance system that's manual and spreadsheets. We don't really have a performance review system, but then we've got a TPA system with our benefits provider to track benefits enrollments. So by having all of these systems that don't communicate to each other, in essence, as you see here, there's just paper being pushed all over the place. So every time we onboard an employee, we might have to enter them 5 different times. If we want to make a change, that change needs to be made. If we want to track performance, we might have to dig through a full paper file to be able to get the data we're looking for. So really the answer to that is really the solution that we call Sage HRMS. And the reason we call it a comprehensive solution is at the center of it all, it's the employee record. And we'll get into kind of a mini demonstration in a little bit to kind of show you some of that functionality. But within the Sage HRMS application, as you can see from this, basically this high-level screen, I can see my employee record. To the left hand of the screen, I actually have all of my individual tasks. So if I wanted to change a job and pay, I wanted to terminate an employee, I wanted to actually rehire an existing employee in the database because we have some seasonality, or we have employees that leave, come back quite frequently. Those tasks can actually be step-by-step driven processes within this portal. And then from basically the main screen you see there are just tons of tabs in here. And I don't say tons of tabs to try to scare you at all, but really what I mean by that is just it's a full comprehensive offering. So really by centralizing your data, on that previous screen we talked about having that data stored in several different pieces. By bringing it all into Sage HRMS, now if I want to look up an employee's demographic data, if I want to look up their certifications, their licenses, if I want to actually attach a copy of their driver's license or change their I-9 status to verified, if I want to look up a full job and pay history record throughout their entire employment history with our organization, if I want to see what their benefit enrollment plans are, I want to see what their actual deduction amounts have been, what are their dependents or beneficiaries assigned to these specific accounts, how many hours does this employee have left in that vacation plan, or they actually just had an accident at one of the job sites, so we actually need to enter the information into this system to be able to complete our OSHA 100 and 300.
So all of that data is going to be centralized in Sage HRMS. So some of those core capabilities that you get right from the start, comprehensive benefits, you have all of your leave tracking for time off. What we really are going to be able to provide to you automatic updates. So as the IRS, United States, different policies change, you don't have to worry about being up to speed with those because Sage is going to take that on to you and push out those updates. We're going to give you powerful reporting, and you're also going to have the ability to have customization. And I try to stay away from the word customization and really describe it as personalization, because custom often means added costs. Within the core capabilities of Sage HRMS, we're going to be able to personalize the system to add your own fields, your own reports, so that you really feel like the system is operating for you versus you having to live in one of those boxes. You know, we definitely don't want you to come aboard, choose a Sage HRMS solution and say, this isn't going to be robust enough for us, or it really just doesn't fit what our goals are. And obviously that big one is that quick access to critical information. So out of the box, though, we have all of your data stored in Sage HRMS. We have over 140 standard reports in the system today. So right from the click of being installed in the first day, you're going to have a full library of reports like compensation reports, benefit reports. We'll also give you the ability to use an ad hoc report writer called Secure Query, which is very easy to use. It's essentially a drag and drop, so you don't actually need to know database field names. And then lastly, advanced custom report writing. So the two options to do this are actually Crystal Reports, which is the main reporting engine for Sage HRMS. And then since this entire system is built on a SQL database, you can also accommodate custom reports via a SQL report writer. So, you know, just a little bit more detail about those reports and forms that are standard in the system. As I described those 140, you can see just the HR and time off reports that we have listed here. So we've got OSHA reports, we've got your EEO1, your Vet 4212s. We can do your benefit reports, so you know, change reports from year to year, being able to send insurance coverage detail reports to your benefits administrator, wanting to track compensation histories for your employees, do salary analysis across the organization, have our organization reports to be able to check headcounts within different divisions and departments. And we can do this at what we call the enterprise level. So for those of you that have multiple different companies or tax IDs, we can report upon them all at one time and they can all be stored in this database. Or we can actually filter it to say, I only want to look at our Alliance Solutions Group Sarasota company, and I only want to look at the HR division within that specific entity. So really we can dive into any specifics or broad areas that you want to. One of the new items that we added with one of our recent releases is actually the ability to build your HR forms packets basically right into the system. So rather than having to go out to your intranet or, you know, go to that paper filing cabinet and pull open those master copies of all of your onboarding documents, those enrollment forms, pay status forms, we can actually create these packets under that tab to the left called HR Forms, and we can actually go ahead and print those right from the HR system. And then, you know, I talked about personalization. So when I said that, we really don't want you to live in a box. So the first items that I wanted to show here are, we have a custom detail screen where you can actually create your own screen. So you'll notice to the top right here, I wanted to actually create a training record where I created all of the fields here are actually personal. They're what we say custom because they were not existing in the HRMS database when we bought it. We actually have a different way of stating what we call training, and we might have our own training catalog, and we might have our own dates or labels for what we call an action status. So I actually created my own training screen, and this is included in that core functionality at no additional cost. We just need to design those for you. And then what we've got are actually user-defined fields. So under certain screens in Sage HRMS, this example is under our HR status screen, where there's already pre-existing blank text fields where right from that screen, you can actually just relabel those user-defined fields. So the core functionality is fantastic, but we want to be able to offer you the ability to really scale. So ultimately, every company's goal is really to grow. You might want to expand in size. You might want to expand in market share. And by doing that, increasing that employee count, it always causes headaches. You know, you're going to have more items from an HR responsibility standpoint or payroll responsibility standpoint that you're going to be responsible for, because the job is going to get more difficult. And where Sage HRMS really is a fantastic overall solution is really its ability to be end-to-end. So from hire all the way to retire, Sage HRMS can actually step in and provide you an extremely robust platform. So employee self-service portals, being able to walk an applicant electronically on your website through that recruiting process. We can give them the ability to enroll in their benefits. We can capture their time and attendance, their actual punches, or actually have them request their time off, and then have that master HR system of record that all of this data is feeding to. So it's really a full-scale ecosystem, and that's why we really call it a human capital management platform versus just an HR system. So to just give you a peek as to, you know, what those different applications look like today, the first one that I wanted to highlight was really that employee portal. So what this can do for you is give your employees the ability to, you know, very simply come in. They can make their address changes. They can view their profile information. They can view their pay stubs. They can actually see their compensation history, when their upcoming reviews are. And we can also personalize the portal. You'll see this is my fake company that we created, Dunedin Enterprises. So we can put your logo up here. We can actually change the color schemes in here. So let's say red was your primary color. We can add that to really brand this portal to be yours. So from a time perspective, what we really do from that employee perspective is empower them to get a lot of the data that they're, you know, asking us. So remember, it's all about engagement. As an HR professional, is it more valuable for me to be manually making changes to the HR system for like an address, or is it more valuable for me to be printing out pay stubs for that employee that's buying a house? Or is it more important for me to be in front of that employee, helping them develop a growth plan in the organization, or helping them solve any issues that they're running into? So we want to use these systems to be able to really empower you as the end user, or as we call it, administrator, to get out of that paper process. And from a manager perspective, those field level supervisors are going to be empowered to have that data for their direct reports. So no longer do they need to reach out to you and say, hey, when is that when is that performance review due? Or, hey, I need to get in touch with John's emergency contact. So that employee and manager portal is that first step in really growing and giving that responsibility over to those employees and managers. The next area, it's kind of a two-part process here with what we call paperless HR. So we've got a checklist where we can actually assign all of those documents. So rather than you putting together, if you can imagine, I know we're on a phone call right now, but if you had that onboarding paperwork, some of you might have it in front of you today, that onboarding packet that you're working on with the 30 to 50 different pages with your policies, your enrollment forms, your tax forms, maybe just data confirmations, policies, all of that can actually be pushed into what we call checklist assignments. So that as that employee is added into Sage HRMS, they're automatically assigned these specific documents so that you as the administrator don't actually have to manually assign them one by one. And then that employee would then enter again that employee self-service portal to be able to actually fill out these forms electronically. So, depending on your employee's level of access, they could do this from a home computer, they can do this from an iPad, or this could always be, in addition, it could be a part of your actual onboarding process. You have actually, let's say, a group interview or a group onboarding with 5 people in your boardroom. And the process versus having them fill out the paperwork via hand is actually going to sit them down at the terminal, go through the checklist, and fill out these documents. So huge amount of time savings here, because then all of that data from these electronic forms updates our Sage Siri payroll system, updates Sage HRMS, can then feed over to those carriers. And that's not just limited to items like onboarding. It's really any type of personnel change. If we have a form today that we'd like to automate, that's where this paperless workflow with Sage HRMS can definitely streamline those processes. So if you think about job and pay increases being initiated by a supervisor, or an employee wanting to actually fill out that FMLA leave request form, we can actually take your library of forms, build them here into the system, and then that manager would actually have it routed. So as you see in the bottom, they would have that document routed to them. Then they can actually approve, disapprove, or return back to that original initiator. Visibility-wise, there are just a limitless number of different alerts that we can set up. So if you're familiar today with the My Assistant package with the Sage 100C and Sage 300 CRE applications, the visibility that tool provides you is very similar to a tool we call Alerts and Workflow, as well as different email-generated alerts that we've set up on employee self-service. So we might want to have alerts that tell us if an item has been changed within the HR record. We might want reminders, as you can see down below, reviews that are overdue, leave ending in a certain amount of days. The big one for the construction industry, certifications that may be expiring, or a license that's past due, or a training that hasn't been completed yet, and they have to have that training completed as part of their core job functionality. Those are just some of the alerts that we can actually set up here in Sage HRMS to make sure that you're on top of basically any key related items that are happening in and out of the organization. So what I'm going to do now is actually switch over to my demonstration environment. And remember, feel free to really answer any or ask any questions via chat. Let me pause really quick as I load up the Sage HRMS application and just ask, Tim, have you gotten any questions yet from any of our attendees on what I've shown so far?
Yeah, we do have a couple questions. Let's see. Let me make that a little bigger so I can see it. And all right. So is there Active Directory integration?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there actually is an Active Directory configuration so that if you terminate an employee in Sage HRMS, it will automatically terminate their status within the Active Directory. So that's what we call an Active Directory conduit. It's an additional module that we sell with Sage HRMS.
All right, and with Crystal Reports, are there standard reports in with Crystal Reports?
So all of the reporting, so if you look at my screen now, all of the reports within Sage HRMS here are actually built within Crystal Reports. So when you buy Sage HRMS, you actually get a license for Crystal Reports. So if or actually 2 licenses, I apologize. So if I wanted to modify the compensation, let's say I opened up my compensation reports and I wanted to modify the layout of this reviews due, I can open up that template in Crystal Reports, or I could even just use that as the base framework for me to complete an entirely new report that I wanted to add into my library.
All right, and we do have another question. Does Sage HRMS sync to ADP if we use them for payroll and benefits, or would this completely be able to replace our ADP?
So we, this could, we probably need to have more discussions, and I think that's a great, it's probably worth speaking directly with Pat Warren about maybe having a different conversation. But yes, we could, create a file that goes out to ADP. But, of course, one of the things that we can do in Sage HRMS is really offer that benefits administration system. So what we do here is we can actually set up all of those different insurance plans, the rate tables. Then what we can do is actually tie those to the employee record. So I can come into the system and, for example, my employee Veronica Bell, if I want to track what are her current plans, what are all of her historic benefit plans, as well as the history. So, obviously the new thing in the past couple of years was being able to complete those 1094s and 1095s. So I need to track life events. I need to make sure if I have salary increases. I need to make sure that I'm tracking full-time equivalency for those workers. So this is where we're really a full benefits administration system built into this core HR package.
All right, we have another question. Pat, you might have to answer this one. Does the use of About Time or Sage Service Operations as timekeeping functions affect anything?
Typically, no. Typically, they're going to be just time and attendance, time capture solutions that are going to interface directly with your payroll solution, not with your human resources solution. They're really two different functions, generally speaking, in your relationship, what happened between the payroll solution and the HRMS package, not directly with About Time or Sage Service Operations.
All right. Another question, does it have a way to track tools for the employee? And by tools, I assume we're talking about drills, screwdrivers, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't have anything like that created today, but I do have an equipment screen. So it's not exactly what you're looking for, but it could be modified. So remember when I talked about personalizing the system to uniquely fit your organization? So I wanted to, just like the personal demographic screen, I wanted to create my own screen called company property. And the company property screen here is a multi-record screen. So I can add as many pieces of equipment, or we might call this the tools property screen. So what that gives you the ability to do is really add your own custom fields into the system. So for you, you might say company property, but rather than having, labels for iPad, laptop, tool, whatever you might want to add in here, you might remove iPads. You might put wrench, helmet, auger, power drill, impact drill, whatever you're going to add in here. You can customize kind of the library of what codes are included here. So this is how we can actually kind of personalize the database to track those different items. And what's nice about this is if I want to run a report that shows me all of the pieces of equipment that have a blank date returned in the system, I can do that. I could run that list by employee. And think about this also from a termination standpoint. Now HR, when we do that terminate employee process, we can actually add a step that routes us to the property screen to make sure all of those tools or equipment have been returned before we've actually fully terminated that individual.
All right. Thank you. We do have another question. Can existing payroll data be imported into HRMS?
So typically we're not going to really import the payroll data unless you are using Sage HRMS payroll. So it is an HR, we have an HR component. We can actually process payroll within this system. So depending on what, I'm not sure what you'd like to import the data. You might be asking about historic data like check histories or job and pay salary data, earnings deduction codes. If you're not using Sage 300 CRE for payroll today and you'd like to add Sage HRMS payroll, if that's your question, then yes, we can pull in existing payroll data.
All right, we are caught up on questions right now.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, keep them coming. So really just wanted to give you a brief overview, just as an example here, what I can do, which is nice, is from my home screen, I can actually come in, I can search for an employee by putting in their ID number or their name. We've got a nice area to actually personalize links. I've got my resources section here, so if I want to take a course or I'd like to actually go out and submit some product feedback, or I can also actually come to my task list. So, rather than find that individual employee, maybe I just want to do a quick head count. And I want to know how many active employees do I have in the HR department or the manufacturing department. Without actually needing to, run a report, I actually have a counter right here. So it shows me right now I've got 6 active employees in HR. I know I want to work with Veronica. I've clicked on her name. Now I'm in her records. And basically, this is where I get into all of that profile information. So if I want to look up, hey, when's the last time she had a leave of absence? Or when is she scheduled to return? I don't need to run a report. I can actually come in here and see that leave of absence event. Or if I want to look at, hey, what certifications are expiring or licenses are expiring, I've got that data stored here in the system. And if I want to navigate between different employees, I can actually just click the arrows. So I'm not actually having to go to that personnel file, look through the filing cabinet, dig through all of those paper documents. I'm going to be able to actually navigate very easily between those different records right here within Sage HRMS. Do we have another question? Okay. No, I thought
nope.
I heard some. I thought I heard some feedback, but we're good.
Yep.
So
no
we can
question.
track all those. Okay, perfect. So what I always like to say is it's fantastic to be able to have the data in here, and where Sage HRMS is really established is the reports. So just from a certification and event standpoint, we already have a standard report built. So I, as the administrator, could come in and I could say, I want to run this event reports, and I want to look at any certifications or licenses. I just choose that code that are expiring within a certain window of time. I can preview my report. I can push this out to Excel. I can push it to Word. And now the system has already pre-filtered the employee that actually has those certifications, and it tells me when those are due or when they're expiring, and it gives me the description of, well, this was a DOT certification, this was a CPP, this is a welding certificate. So I need to make sure that I communicate with that manager or that employee to actually make sure that this is updated. What we can also do is really, we talk about from the core HR standpoint. So the system that I'm in right now, this is really for our HR administrators. How can we actually reduce the paper? So what you're seeing here in the system is a place where I can actually upload those files. So let's say I have a copy of that certificate or license, or I want to put a copy of their driver's license in here. All I need to do is scan that document in, add it as a file attachment, and then if I ever need to download it, I can get into that information right here from within Sage HRMS. Lastly, we can store emergency contacts. So really, from that original new hire step, we start off the process by only knowing, very little demographic data, job pay data. We don't know that much. And as you know, the longer that employee is with us, they start to have different changes occurring, job and pay changes. They start to have LOAs. They have different certifications that have been attached to them. So there's just a ton of detail that makes that packet that may start off as 26 pages, slowly but surely grow into over 100 different pages that, just that profile has gotten bigger and bigger. So here within Sage HRMS, there really is no limitation to what we're going to store in here. If I want to come in and store 20 years of job and history record changes, I can see this. In the construction industry, one of the most common scenes that I see this used for is you would actually label your change reason code. It might be change of position, or it might be change of location because they're moving to a different job site. And for some of you that have, huge, workforces, you might have 3 different projects going on at one time, and you want a quick and easy way to make sure that you're tracking how many times that one employee may have moved within a given time period. So I can actually see that from a job history record screen perspective without even needing to run a single report, because we've got that functionality right here at the employee screen detail. So the core HR, in essence, is it's going to be that profile data. So all of the information employee related, if we need to get in and find it, if we need to run our reports for benefits, compensation, any compliance related forms, that is what we're going to use this system for. So that's our core Sage HRMS application, where we start to get into the functionality of what we call that scalability, helping you grow, helping you reduce some inefficiencies. That's where we have this employee self-service module. So the main difference you notice, this is in a web browser. The other solution is in a client server application. So HR, payroll, you will be in this system if you want to look up employee data. Employees and managers, they would access this employee self-service module because they might want to do that from their phone, from an iPad. They might want to do that from home. So that's where we really enable them to have access to their data here within employee self-service. So no longer, as I said during that initial discussion, do I need to go to HR and fill out a document and tell them, hey, this is my new address, because then HR has to stop what they're doing, enter that data into the system. They might have to do that in 4 different systems. Now the employee can actually edit their profile, and we still do require an approval. So what that means is if we want HR to actually electronically approve this, or we want their direct supervisor to approve this, we can set that up at the administrative level so that Veronica can come in here and make that change. So if she wants to update her dependents and beneficiaries, emergency contacts, if she wants to request PTO, she has the ability to see that data, make the request, and we can still put an approval process on it so that they're not blindly just going in there and making changes. What I can do, though, as well, is I can see those pay stubs. So if I want to come into the system, I'm buying a new house, I've done this. You probably all have done this as well. You've gone to your own respective departments and said, hey, I need my past 8 pay stubs. Well, now the employee has that at their fingertips, so we can actually pull these pay stubs over from Sage CRE right here into this HR database so that they don't have to bother you with that. And where I think we can really start grabbing more engagement with the employees is building out our own custom menus. So you might have a YouTube channel where you want to create an employee onboarding video, or you might want the ability to actually create your own customer testimonial site, and you want your employees to be able to have that visibility. Well, I added my own menu called Internal Communications. It's got a link out here to a YouTube channel, so it directly brings me there. We might want to actually just put a regular Windows Media video or MP4 file. We might have a company newsletter that we work hard on, and our employees only see it today in a break room. Maybe now we want to put that into this portal. So it's more than just changes. It's going to be that productivity. So, I always ask the question with a lot of customers in your industry is, where do you find let's say your foreman's time better used? Is it pushing paper for their employees in the field, or is it working on that project? The more we have those managers out in the field getting bogged down with employee requests and, different forms, that's the less time they're actually working on that project. That means more time that we're spending. We're losing more, our expenditures are way higher. we can actually smoothen out that process, increase that overall productivity. So that's where we really start to sell that, I would say, that value to the managers. That's where they start to really see how using this employee portal is really going to drastically be able to give them a lot more time in front of their employees in, I would say, outside of the back of a computer. So beyond the employee self-service, to kind of finalize it out, I won't go into much more detail unless, we get any specific questions. But remember, I said this is a complete hire to retire system. So we can help with the employee self-service or the applicant self-service. So an applicant going out to a careers page, actually applying for a position electronically. We can automate that performance review. So we actually build it out here in the system. And we can also capture time and attendance and training management deployed through a web browser. So that's where I would suggest, if this has been of interest to you and you want to take a closer look, we'd love to schedule a time for Alliance and Sage to sit down with you, learn more about what your process is, maybe about some of the current pains that you're experiencing, and then what we can do to really provide you a full comprehensive solution to answer any of those questions. So I will pause for now and just check to see if we have any final questions before we go ahead and conclude today's presentation.
Yeah, we do. Does the benefits enrollment have EDI feed to insurance carriers?
Sure. So everything is modular based. So there is a module called Benefits Messenger. So if you did want that level of integration, yes, we could actually capture those enrollments and then push them directly to your carriers.
All right. Is the training module a separate module?
The training module is a separate module, yes, and we've got a couple different options. So within the core HR functionality that I originally showed, we can actually create our own events page to track basic certifications and licenses. We can then create those personalized custom detail screens, kind of like how I showed you that equipment screen. And then if your need is beyond that functionality, we have a administrative only module called Sage HRMS Train. And then we have a module called Cyber Train, which is actually a web portal where we can deploy web trainings, upload content so that our employees can take courses online. So that's where I would suggest we sit down, your Alliance representative as well as myself. We sit down and learn a little bit more about what's your goal so that we can really present you something that's going to be what you need. Then we can actually present as well, maybe we need this certain module today, but we'd like to show you something else in the future. That's a future goal of ours.
All right, we do have another question, and this is regarding Sage 300 construction and real estate payroll. For people using the Sage payroll module, can you talk a little bit on how they work together?
Sure. Yeah, so we have a tool. There's a tool called the BAS Pay Link, and that is it's kind of an audit transaction system. So what happens is you create a new hire in Sage HRMS. You enroll them in their benefits. And what we want to be able to do is remove that duplicate entry process. So that's what the BAS Pay Link was developed. When you add a new hire, that BAS Pay Link will actually pool all of that HR data, and it will automatically add it into payroll. So you don't have to actually enter that employee twice. And then what it also has is the ability from an ongoing perspective. So let's say I enroll that employee in the HMO plan. That means that on the HR side, it might mean a $500 contribution. On the payroll side, that might be a $20 biweekly deduction. So as we make changes to salary, benefits, demographic data, all of that data through that BAS Pay Link automatically gets pushed over to Sage CRE Payroll so that you're not having to duplicate work.
All right, great. We are caught up on questions.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I mean, if there's any, what we can do is